I've been trying to catch up on the holiday movies from this season, but there's no way I'm going to watch them all.
No,
There's
no time. But that just means you have Christmas movies to watch for the entire year.
True.
Till all the new ones come out again next year.
Yeah, until Christmas in July when they release. How many new ones did they release this year? Like 4 or 5 new ones for Christmas in July?
It seems like a lot. Yeah.
So many.
There was one that they released. Was it this July that I absolutely loved? I can't remember what it was called. It was that one where she wakes up in a different life and her mom is still alive.
Oh, yes.
What is it called?
The 5 More Minutes or...
No, it's like, gosh, that's going to drive me nuts. It was so, so good. It's one of my favorite ones they've ever done.
Yeah, and it was a lead who's not in a ton of Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, because originally, in the beginning of the movie, she's married and they're having financial struggles and she's frustrated. And then she wakes up in this different life and she's not with him anymore, but she's super rich and successful and her mom's still alive. Man, what is it called?
A cat?
Mm-hmm. He wants in.
Oh, I was like, I don't think it's my cat.
Gosh, I hope he doesn't do that the whole time.
Can you hear that? Yeah.
He's jumping against the door.
Oh my gosh, what a
He'll stick his
psychopath.
paws underneath it, and he is a psycho because he gets the zoomies like all cats do. But yesterday, he has this thing where he decides he wants to outrun you somewhere, and he'll zip right between your legs. And here I am, just getting over this knee injury.
Yeah.
Right.
And he ran between my legs and then came back for a second, and I fell into the kitchen cabinet.
Oh my gosh.
Go away.
Yeah, he's a psycho. You can hear him?
No.
Because I know if he comes in here, he'll be walking in front of the screen and nobody wants to see a cat's butt at 5 a.m.
Or any time of day, for that matter.
Yeah.
Take Me Back for Christmas. That's what it's called. It was not this past July. It was the year before.
Oh, it was so good.
So good.
Loved it. Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, I intentionally didn't watch that one. That would be a hard one for me, having lost my mom. I'm like, I don't know if I can get through this without being just a wreck the whole time.
Yeah, for
sure. Then we watched a movie that I was a wreck the whole time anyway.
You guys, I was not prepared for the level of absolute sobbing that was going to come along with this movie. A lot of movies make me cry, especially right now, because pregnancy hormones are very real. But I sobbed uncontrollably during this week's movie. It was ridiculous. I was glad no one was watching it with me to see.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because your dad was working, but he would come out in the living room once in a while and he'd walk by. And the first thing he says is this one of your movies for this week? And I said, yeah. And he's like, well, this isn't a Hallmark movie. I said, yeah, it is. Really? Wow, this seems really serious. And then he'd wander back in, and then he'd come back out, and it would be, which we'll dive into, but a particularly emotional part. And he's like, this is a sad movie. Yeah, it is. And then he'd stand there and watch a while, and then he disappeared, a really emotional part. He disappeared and didn't come back out until he heard the credits rolling. He was like, is it over now?
I'm not watching that.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, this movie isn't just a Hallmark movie. It's a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie.
Which, I mean,
yes.
It's going to be good if it's a Hallmark Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Do they still do those? Because it used to be that the Hallmark Hall of Fames would air at nighttime.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, it would be a different network, like ABC or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Hallmark had a channel while they were doing Hall of Fame or not. They may not have actually had their own network, and then they switched over. Because I was doing research for this movie that we're going to start talking about here soon, and they were celebrating, when they had filmed this movie, they were celebrating their 60th anniversary of Hall of Fame movies. So they had been doing it for a very long time. A really, really long time. So,
and then they got their own network and it just blew up.
Yeah. So, All right. Well, shall we get started chatting about this film?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. Welcome to Love on the Pod, a podcast about the cheesy romantic TV movies we adore. I'm Jessica.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Sherry, and this is episode 36.
And
Really?
I know.
36 episodes.
Yeah.
Look at us
Yes.
go.
Look at
I
us.
know.
We're doing it.
We really like watching movies.
Doing the damn thing. What is that? Was that Becca? She said that on The Bachelorette all the time. She was doing the damn thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the last time I watched The Bachelorette.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we are talking about The Lost Valentine, which is a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie that came out in 2011 and originally aired on CBS. So I'll give you guys a little synopsis of this movie. The Lost Valentine tells the heartfelt story of a young journalist who uncovers the decades-long tale of a widow who has been visiting a train station every Valentine's Day, honoring the memory of her husband, a World War II pilot declared missing in action. As the journalist digs deeper, she discovers the power of enduring love and helps uncover a long-lost chapter of the widow's life, leading to a touching resolution. All right. So this movie stars the incomparable Betty White.
She's such a national treasure.
Yes. She was 89 when she took on this role.
Was she
Yeah.
really? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Was
she
that one of
said-
her final roles?
It may have been. I actually did not look that up, so I do not know. But I know she continued to do like guest spots on TV shows here and there. But this may have been her last movie. I think she did The Proposal somewhere around the same time period.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I watched an interview with her and she said that when people would ask her if there was anything in her career that she had done that she wanted to do, that she wouldn't always say it, but in the back of her mind, she really wanted to do a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie. And she was, so she was delighted to be able to have this opportunity to do this movie.
That's really cool.
Yes. And the co-stars in this movie are Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sean Ferris, along with a host of other cast members, but those are the three main characters in this film.
Can we start a petition for Sean Ferris to be in more Hallmark movies?
I know.
Oh, he's so good.
He is so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was in, let's see. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know the last Hallmark movie he was in.
It was a Christmas one. I looked it up, but I forget.
Was
what
it Gettysburg Christmas a Hallmark one? I don't think it was it?
No, it was a different one. And maybe it wasn't a Hallmark movie that I'm thinking of. Maybe it was GAC or Lifetime.
Yeah, I need him in more movies. He's so good. I read somewhere that he is the perfect mix between Tom Cruise and Christian Bale. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so accurate.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. He's just so good. I would like to see him more often in Hallmark movies.
Well, and I think he did really well breaking out of Pretty Little Liars because that's definitely a totally different role.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes it's hard to get past that as a viewer when you see someone in a different departure from what they played before.
Right.
So, he's done a good job. I think he's a really good actor.
Yeah. And did you know that he's in Pearl Harbor? He plays Danny's gunner.
Yes, you are right. He is. Yep.
Oh man, it's been so many years since I've seen that.
Another one that'll really make you cry, but so good.
So good, but also so strange. But so good,
Very
but
strange.
so strange.
Very strange. That's so good.
It's one of my favorites. I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love a real rip your heart out.
Now, she would have had better luck if she had just been going to the train station every Valentine's Day.
Just
But,
waiting.
Oh, we can't all learn from Betty White.
What is
that's
happening?
terrible. What is that?
Okay,
It stopped.
it's done. I don't know. What's connection?
How you
thing, I
doing
think.
over there today, Mom?
Okay.
It's a rough one.
Okay, so this movie was directed by Darnell White, and it was based on a book by James Michael Pratt called The Last Valentine. But after this movie was released and it was successful, he then changed the title of the book and republished it as The Lost Valentine to match the movie.
Ooh, I want to read it now.
Yeah, he has a series of 4 World War II themed romance books that I just put on my wish list because they look so good. And story, I don't know if you looked at his story and like what inspired him to write this book. It's so cool. So it was inspired by his own parents. His mother, during World War II, his mother got word that her husband was coming home, and it had been, I want to say, like 3.5 years or something since he had been home. She got a telegram that he had reached the East Coast. And once she got that telegram, she went to the train station every day waiting until he arrived. And in her case, this only lasted 3 days until he arrived home. But that was the inspiration for him to write this story. And I thought that was really special.
I'd read that it was based on true events. So that's really sweet that it was inspired by his parents.
True-ish. I mean, that's a very different story than this movie was.
Yeah.
But
inspired by.
Yes, inspired by. It was very, very sweet to know that.
Yeah. And it's just, we just don't know that life. And it wasn't that long ago where this was the situation where you would send your husband off and not hear from him and not know if he was coming home. And it's just.
Right. Yeah. You hear nothing. I mean, can you imagine 3.5 years not knowing if your husband was going to come home?
Ugh.
And then you get a telegram and you're like, okay, he's reached the United States. I'm going to just go to the train station every day until I see him, because it's not like he can call you on his cell phone and be like, oh, I'll be there at 2:30 on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And many of your neighbors were in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just a very different time.
Yeah. So my children are up. They're probably looking for the elf.
Didn't hide the.
Oh, yeah, because as we're recording this, it's the week before Christmas.
Yes, it's the week before Christmas. Even though this is our Valentine's Day episode, it is the week before Christmas that we're recording this. And I saw the elf this morning, and he was hidden in a roll of toilet paper, and the baby elf was pushing the roll of toilet paper down the hallway.
Wait, you have a baby elf too?
Yes, we have a baby
You
elf.
went all out. You got 2 elves.
Yes, we have a baby elf. So the baby.
Sorry, guys.
Oh,
It's my mic plug in, I think. Okay.
Whatever you do, don't move.
Just
Freeze right here. I can't look at my notes. I'll just use my eyes. I won't turn my head. Won't drink my coffee.
Yes, our baby elf's name is Goldie, and our big elf's name is Noelle.
Aww.
So that's. So this movie was written. The teleplay was written by Marianne Rodini Spencer and Barton Taney. Filming locations. This movie was mostly filmed in Georgia, which is another popular place for these made-for-TV movies and for regular feature films to be filmed. They used the Georgia Capitol building, the Druid Hills, which is, I think, a neighborhood or a suburb area. I didn't look it up.
Okay, we'll go with that.
They used a home in this area for filming, and I'm assuming it's probably the house that Caroline lives in. And then, you know what? Before I move on, her name was Caroline in the film, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because I watched an interview, and it was one of those like older commercial interviews where you've got the like Dateline narrator over the top almost.
Oh, geez. Yes.
But they had little clips of Betty White talking about the film, and she referred to the character as Carolyn. So did the narrator. And I was like, I swear her name's Caroline.
Yes.
But they must have just taken what she had said. She must have misspoke, and then they used it. They didn't double check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
So anyways, and then they also used the naval submarine base, Kings Bay, and they used real sailors in the film. Everybody who was in uniform was an actual member of the military.
Oh,
Oh,
how
I
cool.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so was the
That's really
courthouse
neat.
the train station? Did they convert the courthouse into the train station?
It was the Capitol building, but yes, they
I
decorated
mean, Capitol
it.
Lawn.
Yeah, to look like
Okay.
a train station.
Okay, so it wasn't a real train station. It looked like it. I believe
Sure
it.
did. Yeah. Although I
Yeah.
didn't see a train ever, but the station looked real.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, we saw a train, but not coming through the station.
No. But I love a beautiful train station. They're kind of no more. Now you've got like the hideous Greyhound style
Yeah.
stations.
You want to get on a
Mhm.
train in Seattle, it's
Yeah.
not a place you want to go.
Or even Tacoma. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
It's not like Union Station where it's this grand building or anything. That's a museum area now. Or
Yeah, I was going to say,
event
do
center.
trains even come through there? I don't think so.
No.
It's an
the
event
link goes in front of
space
it,
now.
but an actual, it's an event space. That's where
I had my high school prom there, so
I was going to say, one
Oh,
of you
yeah,
had a
that's-
prom there.
That's right. All right. So initial thoughts on this film. What did you guys think?
I'm obsessed. It was so good. I cried and cried. I don't even remember the last movie that made me cry this hard, but I'm not mad about it. It was so good. So good.
Yeah. Happy crying, sad crying, wondering what's going to happen. From the very first scene, they do flashbacks throughout the whole movie. From the very first scene when he's getting deployed in World War II, I'm tearing up then. And then, throughout the movie, I'm tearing up again. And it's just so good, so well done, so well acted. And we'll dive more into this, but from the costumes to the backgrounds to the background players and it's just the music, everything. So good.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah. I
From
agree.
the moment she entered the train station in the beginning of the movie and they show the framed picture that has her and her husband in the background and they slowly start zooming in and I immediately was like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, this is going to be a sad movie.
This is one of those. Jessica, what are you doing to us? And then we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Relive every moment.
Yeah.
Yes. I had heard of this movie and heard that it was great. And I hadn't watched it until a couple of years ago. And I only watched it once. And because this movie wrecks you. It's, I wouldn't say it's a hard watch, but you have to be prepared to cry. Bring your tissues.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're
It's an
gonna-
emotional watch for sure.
The amount of mascara that was on my white bed sheets,
Yeah.
it was, it wrecked me. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then
When
I watched
you're-
it again this week to prepare for this episode. And I knew what was going to happen and I still cried. So,
all over again. And that's a testament to the really good acting. I think you're watching above the screen, so maybe I won't cry as much, and it doesn't work because
look up. Yeah.
look up.
No,
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
work. Mm-mm.
It
This
doesn't
is
work.
one I was glad I did not watch with my girls. I was like, they would have been looking at me like, what is wrong with you?
Are you okay?
I don't know that they're old enough to like have that much emotion
Right.
with this movie. I don't know. Maybe Abby, maybe.
Yeah.
She reads all the time and she was just telling me the other day how her book made her cry. So maybe Abby, but Finley would have been like, what's wrong with you, Mom?
Should we change the channel? Are you okay?
Right. Is this appropriate?
Yes. Gosh. Okay. So shall we get into the recap of this film?
Yes, let's do
Yes.
this.
All right. So we open with Caroline saying goodbye to her husband as he boards a train to serve in World War II. And like you said, this movie flashes between the past and the present quite frequently, but in a really well done way. It's not confusing. You can clearly see what's going on, and they don't need to label it 1940 something and present day. And you just
Right.
you can follow along, which is
It's
great.
very clear.
Yes.
Similar to The Notebook in that respect. It reminded me of that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So after the scene, we flash forward to Susan, who's a reporter for a news magazine, and she is asked to cover the story of Caroline, who continues to head to the train station every Valentine's Day to wait for her husband, who went missing in action during World War II. And so this kind of sets up the entire plot of the film and what is going to happen. Susan doesn't really seem that interested in the story. She doesn't think it's something that she wants to do.
She wants hard-hitting news.
Yes. But she works for a company that doesn't do hard-hitting news.
No, they do human interest pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the next scene, Susan is turning down a proposal to her boyfriend who travels a lot and whom she's not remotely excited to marry. We see that they have this very long distance relationship. He's traveling all the time. I don't actually know exactly what he does.
It's a photographer.
Is he? Oh, that's right. That's right. And he only photographs things that are far away, apparently.
Apparently. But can I just say that this proposal was terrible? It was so
my-
unromantic. They're having
It was
dinner
like a
with
spur of
their
the moment kind of
friends.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, on the back patio of her house. It didn't, and then he just sets the ring in front of her. He doesn't even ask her to marry him.
No.
And their friends are sitting there all eager, like expecting her to
They're
say yes.
very
And I'm
excited.
just like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, bring the friends in after she said yes.
Yeah.
Have a
but would you
private
want them
moment.
there for that moment? I wouldn't.
No, especially not when she doesn't say yes.
They can be the ones hiding and taking the photos or the video, but right in the moment, you want it to be just the two. At least I would want it just to be the two of us.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And then as the friends are seeing, she's going to say no. Then it's like this very awesome situation.
Yeah. They're like, do we leave? What do we do? They're on the back patio.
Yeah, my jacket's in the other room. Like, I can't go get it.
Forget your jacket. It's fine. Unless your keys are in the pocket. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, at least if they were just taking video or photos or something, they could dip out and be like, okay, we'll catch up with these guys later. They need a moment.
Yeah. Yep. And Susan, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, says to him, you didn't even ask me. So why do you want an answer to a question you didn't ask?
Right. He just set a ring in front of her.
Yeah. So, yeah, they part ways. Okay. So Susan is now pursuing an interview with Caroline, but both Caroline and her grandson Lucas are pretty reluctant to move forward with this. Caroline doesn't seem interested in any kind of attention. She also kind of thinks that the story is not interesting to the public, and she really doesn't want to do it. So Susan does not give up, though. She continues to pursue the story, and she visits Caroline while she's spending time with vets, reading them the news, which is so cute.
Yeah.
They're all gathered around her like it's story time.
Yes. Yeah, she's reading the sports section of the paper and talking about, I don't even remember what team. The Yankees? Was it the Yankees that she was talking about?
Maybe. But she's throwing in all of her own commentary.
She does not. And
well, and Susan doesn't want to do the story because she likens it to the Hachi story of the dog that continues to go to the train station.
But it's interesting because she says like, oh, you mean like the dog, the story of the dog? And she's talking about the Hachi story and how like talking about
like
it in a way like it's a lame story. And I'm like, excuse
that's
me.
another one
Have
that
you seen that
gutted
movie?
me.
yeah.
That story is so inspiring. It made me cry. It not as much as this movie, but it definitely made me cry. It was one of those where we were watching it as a family and I had to like go in the kitchen and make myself a coffee so I could turn away for a minute because I was going to lose it.
Yeah.
It's such a good story. So when she said that, I was like, I don't like you, Susan.
Yeah.
I don't like you.
Yeah.
Susan. Okay, so after spending some time together, Caroline does agree to do the interview with Susan, and Susan is super excited all of a sudden. Now she's happy. She's ready to do the interview. She's like, yes. Okay, so then most of the rest of the movie is Caroline proceeding to tell the story of herself and Neil, interspersed with present-day scenes of Susan and Lucas. So we see that Susan is falling for Lucas, even though she's still technically dating this other guy, Alex. They've taken some space, but they did not officially break up. So she's getting her flirty flirt on with Lucas, and he is doing the exact same thing.
He's responding.
Yes. He likes her a lot, and he's not hiding it in any way. And I'm like, Susan, just call Alex and just break up with him.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to marry him.
If you don't want to marry him, why continue dating him?
Yeah.
It's silly. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah. So because she keeps calling Alex and trying to get a hold of him for weeks, apparently, and he never calls her back. I'm like, yeah, this is not a relationship you want.
No.
He's prioritized his work.
Yes.
He's going to be gone for 9 months. So there's your answer right there.
And then come home and then leave again the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. So during the course of this retelling, we get to hear about Caroline and Neil meeting, them getting very quickly engaged and married, which I think, although I did not do research on the subject, I think this was a fairly common practice, especially during the war. If you fell in love with somebody who was a soldier, you were going to get married quite quickly. And it does still happen like that today sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the character of Caroline did say that as she's telling the story. She's saying it was a different time back then, and we knew because of the war that you don't waste time, you know, because you don't know how much time you're going to have. So they got married, right? And they had known each other for a long time. They had gone to school together. He had moved away and then come back, and then they reconnected and fell in love.
Yes.
But he does say later on that he was always in love with her, even when they were younger. And I just thought that was so romantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we see them getting their first home. They're fixing it up because it is a real fix room. It needs some help.
But it was $100 down and $50 a month. So you better bet I would be taking that offer.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. And then during this whole time, he is in the military, but he had assured her when they first got together that he likely was not going to have to actually go overseas. But as they're listening to what's happening in the war effort on the radio and they're getting updates, he says one night that he thinks that he needs to join the war effort in person. And before he's deployed, we find out that she's going to have a baby. They're going to have their first child together. And then he's getting deployed
on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And the very last part of the story that she tells is getting a telegram notice that Neil was missing in action. And she talks about seeing all the other neighbors getting telegrams and how that was the last thing that you wanted. You didn't want Western Union to show up at your house because that was bad.
That was so well done, too. When you see the telegram, the Western Union employee walking up with those tall boots that are laced up, and they zoom in on the boots and you hear the footsteps on the sidewalk. I lost it. I'm like,
I did too.
Someone's getting bad news. And you wonder if it's going to be Caroline. Initially, it goes off to a neighbor who gets the worst possible news. And so well done. And I did look up something about the stars in the window. And that was actually a real thing. It said that during World War II, families in the United States would often prominently display a service flag with blue stars in their front windows to signify that they had family member or members serving in the military. And if that service member died in action, the blue star would then be replaced with a gold star representing the sacrifice made by the family.
Oh, wow.
And so when you saw in the movie all those blue stars in the windows, that was really something that they did.
Oh, that's really, really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they, like you said, they did a beautiful job with this. And when they show the Western Union employee coming up to the house, you see him on the bike. You see her making eye contact with him, seeing him, and he rides his bike past the entrance to her gate. So you think, oh, he's not stopping. And then he does. And it's just like, God.
And she's got the baby on the porch. And oh my gosh.
And when she kept saying missing is not dead, I was like, my God. I was just bawling.
Totally bawling. I could cry right now. I can't.
And this actress, I did not write down her name. Megan.
I was going to say, she was great.
Yes. It is.
Megan Fahy.
Megan Fahy.
Fahy?
It's Fahy. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Probably. Fahy.
She was in The White Lotus.
Yeah. So this was, I think, her first film. And she's like, according to IMDb, I think she's in the top 200 celebrities right now that are like being, because she was in The White Lotus. And The White Lotus, it's a very popular show, super good. But I never would have recognized her. She looks completely different. Her hair is different, you know. And this movie is old.
Their acting was so natural. The way she'd look at him and the big smile on her face when they're dancing and the sprinklers come on. And that pink dress, when they're out in the yard, the button up, they had the shorts underneath it.
So cute.
Really fitted on top. It was so cute. Just all the styling was just immaculate in this movie. Every little detail, the family photos on the mantle and the way the house was styled, like an older woman would have, all her mementos and her memories and pictures of her husband hanging on the wall. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked that when we're looking at her when she's younger, her hair is styled for the time, but it's not overdone. It's not like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're going to a party every day. It's normal, like, oh yeah, she's a
Yeah.
mom. Her hair's just kind of
Mhm.
pulled back. It looks like relevant for the time, but it's not like, oh, she put it in all these pin curls and did all this stuff with it because
Mhm.
obviously she
Right.
has a baby. So
Right.
yeah. So Susan now is going to start to dig into what happened to Neil. She decides that she wants to figure out what has happened to him because obviously Caroline never found out. She knew he was missing in action and never heard anything after that or got any kind of closure. So,
Can you imagine that?
yeah.
Not only is your husband gone and not coming home, but you don't know.
Uh-huh.
He's
You
just
don't know.
missing.
He can come home at any
You have
time.
no idea. It could be 10 years, all of a sudden he shows up at your door. I can't imagine, like, every time you hear the phone ring, every time someone knocks on your door, every time you go check the mail, like, just thinking maybe something, maybe I'll get some news.
Yeah.
And at
I
what
can't
point do you move
imagine.
on, or do you?
Right.
I mean, I feel like I couldn't.
Yeah. How can you when you don't
Not that it,
know?
yeah, not that it would be bad. 10, 15 years have gone by and you want a life partner, but still there would always be that, what if he comes home and he sees
Right.
that I've moved on with somebody else? I think I would be in her same boat where I'm just waiting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw it in Pearl Harbor. What happens when you move on?
Yeah.
And they come
Although
back.
in Pearl Harbor, don't they tell her that he's dead?
Yes.
It
they
wasn't
do.
like he's
They do.
missing. They
Yeah,
just
they
tell
do.
her that he's dead.
Yeah, they do
Because
tell
there
her
was
that
a
he's dead.
mix-up at the War Office or something.
Yes. And he
Yeah.
wasn't.
Oh,
He
that'd
was
be
not dead.
awful.
Yeah. So, okay. So Susan is digging into the story and she finds someone that he went down with in the jungle in the Philippines. And his name was Jeff Billings. And he was no longer alive, but she could visit his family. And because they had a letter that he had written to his wife during the war. And they find out, or Susan finds out that Neil had saved Jeff, but that family never knew what became of Neil after that. Neil prioritized Jeff's life over his own, let him go be rescued, and Neil stayed with the native people who had rescued him.
Mhm.
So Jeff had written, like I said, this letter home to his wife, and his family let Susan take it, which I was like, okay, you're going to let this random woman just take this
Why
family
not
memento?
photocopy it? Although I loved this part, how she brings the Bible out and the letter is inside of the Bible. And she says that her mother kept the letter, or his mother,
Yeah.
right? Kept the letter in the Bible to remind her that everything is kept in God's hands. And I just thought that was so beautiful. I loved that part.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
So yeah, it was super sweet. And then they allow Susan to take that so that she can go and tell Caroline about what her husband sacrificed and then try to figure out the next part of the story. So we're going to continue to see Susan working to reunite Caroline with Neil. And they finally discover this is where Alex helps a little bit. Alex redeems himself as Gauche. And because he happens to be in the Philippines traveling and he can find this random man because he has connections. They're looking for this random man who had helped Neil, who lived in the Philippines.
Needle in a haystack.
They only had his first name and it was magic. Alex found him. And even more magical, he also speaks English. So that's
Right.
wonderful.
Yes.
And remembers all of it.
Remembers all of this. Now, I wouldn't put it past somebody to remember this because I imagine it would be a very life-changing, life-altering situation.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe a lot of people who lived in the jungle in the Philippines spoke English back then, but I don't think they did. Honestly, I don't know for sure. I have not done the research to comment on that specifically, but I think they were lucky that he spoke English.
Yeah.
So Susan was able to get him on a Zoom call with Caroline, and Caroline had never done a Zoom call, did not know what that was, but was thrilled to be able to talk to him. And this gentleman told her the story of what Neil did, how he sacrificed, and unfortunately how he was killed by Japanese troops. But he was killed rescuing a little boy.
Cute little boy.
Yes. So this was another really emotional scene. Betty White just did a phenomenal job. She just did a great job for this entire movie. There wasn't a single moment where she was off. So now she has the understanding of what actually happened to her husband, that he did indeed pass away, and that she spent 50 years going to the train station for no reason. But that's okay. That's
But this man remembers where they buried him.
Yes, they marked it with a cross. He said, yes, I can absolutely remember where they buried him. So the military is going to go and exhume his body, bring it back stateside, begin the identification process to make sure it's really him. And then if it is, be able to deliver his body to his family so that he can be buried in the States. Now, this was the only place in the timeline where I felt like they didn't do a great job at really showing how long this was going to take. Jennifer Love Hewitt's character said this is going to take a long time, but then the next scene, he was back in this, just about back in the States and back to the family, which if I had to guess, I would say probably 6 months to a year this would take, maybe longer. Just to even get permission to go to another country and dig up a body would probably take a very long time. So that was the only place in the timeline where there was a little bit left to be desired, I thought.
Yeah, they could have shown her continuing to wait and maybe develop Susan and Lucas's relationship a little bit more along the way.
Yes.
To show just how long it takes.
Yeah, for sure. But this movie was already an hour and 36 minutes, so they had to move it along because that's really long for a TV movie. They're usually an hour 30, an hour 28, something like that. So they probably needed time for commercials. So, all right. So his body is exhumed and is brought back to the United States. We see that he has been identified. We have military officers who do show up at Caroline's house to return his personal effects, which I was shocked that he had personal effects.
That many years later.
It makes sense that they would have buried him with them, but I was surprised that he would have even still had them on him. Because when we see him in the clips in the Philippines, he's wearing a wife beater and a pair of pants, and that's it. He's not wearing anything, his uniform or anything. So a little suspension of disbelief needs to happen there. But she was able to get his leather wallet and see the Valentine she had sent with him when he was deployed, and a picture of him or her and her son. And that was just very sweet.
Yeah, I loved that full circle moment.
And flashing back to when she had the baby, it was such a sign of the times because she's sitting in the car holding the baby on the way home from the hospital. And I got a kick out of that because my mom used to tell the story of when she brought me home from the hospital and I was in a cardboard box in the back seat.
Oh, my word.
No seatbelt or anything. I was tiny. I was 5 pounds. Just
and
set
now
the baby
they
in a
won't
box.
even let you leave the hospital without coming out to do a car seat check.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And then I slept in a drawer, she said, because I was so tiny. I was too tiny for the crib for the first few weeks. Can you imagine? She's crying. Just close the drawer.
Oh, my gosh. How things change.
So another funny part or sweet part I wanted to mention in the movie is when Caroline and Neil's relationship is developing and he's finally summoned the courage to tell her that he loves her. And she pauses for a long time. And I'm like, she's not going to say it back. She's not going to say it back. And then she just looks at him and smiles and says, I sure do wish you'd kiss me. And it was so sweet because that's pretty forward for back then.
Yes.
The guy usually took charge of those things.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really sweet. Yeah, I loved watching their relationship develop and watching their story. I liked that Susan and Lucas had their own kind of love story going on in the background, but I really appreciated that the focus was on Neil and Caroline and their story. And I thought it was just really sweet to see that develop and then to see now Susan and Lucas are starting to have this love story as well.
But it didn't overshadow.
Right, exactly. Yes. There were a few moments, though, between Susan and Lucas that I felt were very weird. There was this one scene, like when they barely even knew each other, she's standing there with her hands on her hips, and he's like, "Is your lower back hurting? You might need to stretch out your hip flexors." What a weird thing for somebody to say to someone. And yet he's a physical therapist, so like maybe he's picking up on some signs. But if someone said that to me that I don't know very well, like you might need to stretch out your hip flexors, I'd be like, I'm uncomfortable.
Don't talk about my hip flexors.
And then she comes to his like place of work at one point, and he's trying to teach her some stretches to do to help with her lower back pain. And he's like, "You take off your heels," and she's like, "I don't take my heels off ever." I'm like, maybe that's why your back hurts. Like, probably should take them off.
Yeah, that was a very weird thing.
It was weird.
Yeah.
That could have been left out. It wasn't necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So after Caroline receives these personal effects back, then we find out that he is going to be delivered to his family at the train station on Valentine's Day. Susan was able to get some strings pulled within the military to make it happen on this specific day. So the story could kind of wrap up in this beautiful way.
And that he was going to be receiving the Purple Heart.
Yes.
And a multitude of other.
Purple Heart, Silver Star, and the Navy Cross, I believe.
Sure, that sounds right.
I believe those were the three that they were going to give him posthumously for his heroic service. So then everybody's at the train station, and we see Caroline walk in and sit down. One of the gentlemen who works at the train station, we had seen him in the very beginning when we first see Caroline in the train station, and he comes over to talk to her, and she says, "My husband's coming home today." And I like, even right now, I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know, me too.
So, and he, the way that he was so great, the way that he looks at her and he's like, "I know, I heard." And it's just so sweet. And so like, cause you can tell that he's been checking on her every single time she comes.
Yeah.
Every year.
They've gotten to know each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just super sweet. And then we see they do a full, I don't know what it's called, but their ceremony that they do when they bring in the coffin. It has the American flag on it. Dozens and dozens of military officers are there to pay tribute to what is happening. And holy cow, did Betty White knock this performance absolutely out of the park.
She shines.
When she gets up and just stands there in front of the procession, and she puts her hand on the coffin. I can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm tearing up.
Yeah.
Because we know her as Rose from Golden Girls, and she's funny and she's ditzy, and she's so not any of those things in this role. She's very, I mean, there's some cute moments where she's funny, but she's serious, and she's such a great dramatic actress. And they pan around, and everybody, all the other actors are crying, and you get a sense that it's really genuine, that she is putting on such an amazing performance that they can't help but be really deeply touched by it. Even the military people, and Jess, you mentioned that these were real military service men and women. They're all tearing up. And then they pan over to Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she's crying. And then they pan over to, I forgot his real name, but Lucas, and he's crying. Yeah. And then, of course, I am just a blubbering idiot at this point because
absolutely inconsolable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they're zooming in on Betty White's face, and it's just the emotion that you can feel from her. I don't know what she drew from to deliver that performance, but it was just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't, in the interview that I saw with her, she didn't talk specifically about what she drew from, but she did bring up her husband, Alan Ludden. And I would imagine that's probably where a lot of it came from, because
they were together a long time.
Was the love of her life. And when he died, she never dated, never was interested in anybody else. And he died in like 40 years before she did. So that's probably where a lot of it came from, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But she just did a beautiful job, and they really let the scene breathe. They didn't cut it short. It wasn't quick. It was, they let her have her moment of grieving, But then when the officer comes over and takes her by the shoulders and pulls her away, that was just so sad.
But so
Yeah.
well done because he
Yeah.
did it in such a like gentle way. Like, we have to move this forward, but he gave her that time.
Yeah.
And he was it wasn't like, okay, we need to move this along. It was like just a very gentle, like loving
Yes.
response. And so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And you can really see in this scene, like, she never got to grieve. She never got to have this moment because she never knew.
Right.
She probably held on to hope that he was alive for all of this
Oh,
time.
yeah.
And so she never got the opportunity to grieve. And so this was just beautifully done. And she looked great in that red suit too. She looked
Yes,
so
she
pretty.
did.
Yeah. She is so beautiful. And well, we named our car Betty White. We have a white car and her name is Betty White.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. You
That's
see it on the
awesome.
screen when it comes up. It says Betty White in the corner.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes. So the last scene of the movie, we see the entire family, including Susan, going back to Caroline's house. And Caroline has this rose bush that is by her front porch. And it was the first rose plant that Neil had planted at their home. And it looked dead. But she, in a previous scene, had asked Lucas, don't dig it up. Because he was just going to take a shovel to it, just rip it out of She's like, she's like, cut it down and give it another chance. And when they come back from the processional, it has a little bud on it, which was super sweet.
Yeah.
And then we see her just kind of reminiscing in her own head, hearing music in her own head of like
watering the flowers.
And then as they pull back, we see who we can only assume is Neil with his arms wrapped around her, swaying back and forth. You never see his
and
face.
Again, I'm a blubbering mess.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And that rose moment was so sweet because it's like, you know, it's finally coming back. And so it's kind of this parallel to her husband finally coming back to her. Oh my gosh, here I go again. I'm getting emotional. But that tells you just how well this movie was done. It really touches you. And obviously we all loved it.
So the only scene that I did not love in this movie was this ending scene with the pieces that they put in with Lucas and Susan. I felt like it was a little forced. We see them.
Oh, when they're in the sprinkler?
And then they just stand there and get sprinklered on. Like,
I loved it because that happened to Neil and Caroline. And so it was like this really sweet parallel. I loved it.
I just felt like it was on the nose.
I wish that they had like shown Betty White, like seeing them through the window. I thought that would have been really sweet.
Yes.
But I liked it. I thought it was sweet.
I liked it too.
I didn't mind it.
I don't think it took away from Betty White's story, Caroline's story. But I like that idea, Danny, where she could have been watching through the front window and have a smile on her face or something. And so that she's the last thing that you see before credits roll. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, because they're the last thing you see. They pull back on them in the sprinklers and then it's over.
Yeah. Right? They really could have used that scene where she's watering the roses and Neil is behind her. You know, they're kind of swaying to the music. That could have been a really cool closing scene.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And then that is the end of the movie. Yeah. And just a beautifully done film. Just wonderful. And I honestly have no idea if they air this on Hallmark anymore, but I watched it on Hallmark Plus this time.
Yeah. You can watch it on Hallmark Plus.
I think I saw it last year on Friendly on the Hallmark channel.
Yeah. It's just a different caliber. It was so good. And you know, I don't necessarily get super emotional about a lot of movies. Like when everybody was watching The Notebook and crying their eyes out, The Notebook has never made me cry. I don't know
what it is about that movie.
I don't know. I like it. I like the movie. I enjoy it. It's never made me emotional.
Didn't make me cry.
This movie or any movie where a dog dies, holy moly, just absolutely wrecks me. And you know what? There's one movie There's one other movie I can recall in my life that made me cry this hard, and that was My Sister's Keeper. And Jessica and I watched that in the movie theater, and then we're sitting there, and I'm like, I am falling in a movie theater. This is wonderful.
No, Steel Magnolias does it for me at the cemetery when Sally Field is falling apart.
Yeah. That's,
And they
I
tell her
told you
to
guys,
punch Weezer.
yeah, when Ava came to visit, that she turned that on and she had no idea what it was about. And
Really? How could she have not seen that?
I'm
That's
like-
like one of Mom's favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I'm like, oh, you didn't know this is sad?
You know, it's funny because I don't own a copy of that, and I should. I've got all the
Really?
classics like Fried Green Tomatoes, and
Love that
that's another
movie.
good one too. Yeah,
Pay It Forward makes me bawl because
I don't remember it.
the tragedy that happens in the film, it comes out of nowhere. That's dang, Haley Joel Osment.
My Girl.
Just-
My Girl.
oh yeah.
Oh,
my God.
yeah.
Thomas
And
J.
have you guys seen 7 Pounds
No,
No.
with Will Smith and is it Eva Mendes that's in that one? I can't remember.
I don't know.
My gosh. Watch it. It's so good. I admittedly am not a big fan of Will Smith, but this movie, so good.
I have to watch it.
So good.
I don't remember crying with A Walk to Remember, but my hairdresser had it on in the salon, and I
Oh no.
it was like everything in my body.
Yeah. No, you got to put on something lighthearted in the salon. You don't want to be just racked with grief while you're getting your hair.
Yeah, it was
Zuli something.
I think she had like TBS or something on because that was on, and then as soon as it was over, I Know What You Did Last Summer started.
Oh, hey, Jennifer Love
wow.
Hewitt. There you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys just a couple behind the scenes details. Actually, we already talked about this part, so this is not a behind the scenes detail anymore because we already talked about it. That the film was based on true events, inspired by true events.
Inspired by.
But to go back to that second to last scene where Caroline's husband's coffin is brought to the train station, Betty White's emotional performance reportedly reduced the entire cast and crew to tears. Jennifer Love Hewitt's own tears are not acting, but a reaction to White's performance. And when they finished the scene, the entire crew gave White a standing ovation.
Wow.
Can
See,
tell.
yeah, and I didn't know that, but okay, let's start over. I didn't know that specifically, but you can feel it as you watch it that this is genuine. They didn't all have to go to a place and try to think of something sad. It was sad.
It was.
She really was able to tap into those emotions and make it so everyone on set felt it.
Yes.
Yeah. And this movie, it was the most highly rated film in 4 years when it debuted in 2011
Not
for Hallmark.
surprising.
It was the most highly rated film for Hallmark in 4 years. And it actually won a Faith and Freedom Award for inspiring American values and ideals at the 20th Annual Movie Guide Awards in February of 2012.
That's so cool.
I thought that was really cool. I also would love to chat with James Michael Pratt, the author of the book. If we could get him on the podcast, I think that would be really cool. He, I mentioned that he wrote 4 books in this series of World War II themed romances, but I found it really interesting that one of the books he wrote is called The Lighthouse Keeper, which I think I've heard of before. It seemed familiar, but a character in that book, his name is Joe Landry. And that character was based on a friend of his father's who he went to war with, and Joe Landry did not make it home. And so I found that really interesting. But he has 2 different podcasts. He has Straight from the Heart, which is life lessons, stories, current events, readings from his novels. And then he also does one called Sundays with the Author, where he reads a chapter of the Bible and shares what he's learned. So
Interesting.
that was really cool.
Huh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should try to get him on the pod. That would be great. I did want to mention one other character that we haven't talked about yet, and that is Jennifer Love Hewitt's hair. Like, this is peak early aughts hair. This is what I would have wanted in my dreams.
Yeah.
Just huge and curly and bangs for days and just
And the slight bump it in the back, not too
Yeah.
big.
Mhm.
just
And it looks healthy and full and everything that I've ever wanted and will never have.
and I'm sure it's extensions. I'm sure it
Oh,
is.
for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yes.
But this is what I went to 2 proms in my life. And the second prom I went to, I used a picture of her as my FDU inspiration. And her hair was in this phase. It was the bangs
Yes.
and oh,
All
Love
the
it.
layers.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So her hair could have its own show. I love it. So
and
pretty.
the whole idea of wearing heels everywhere she goes, I
Uh-huh.
mean, so millennial,
Yes.
so true to that period of time. And I see these reels on Instagram all the time where it's like what millennials wore to the club and what people wear when they go out
Mhm.
now. And like,
Yeah.
people are smarter now. They wear tennis shoes, but we were like,
Yeah.
yep, gonna put on my 4-inch heels. And
And
by
my
the end of the
blazer.
night, I'm carrying my shoes and walking barefoot on the disgusting
Uh-huh.
city street.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I worked in retail in the late 80s and I wore heels every single day,
Every day.
even all the way through my pregnancy with Jessica.
Yeah.
8-hour shifts and I'm in heels the whole time. And I wonder why my feet are so jacked
While
up
you're
now.
pregnant, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I'm not going any
Yeah.
higher than like an inch and a half.
Yeah. It was
Forget it.
crazy time. That was
And they're
the
going to
80s.
be like boots with a thick heel. I'm not wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's always those reels that are talking about how business casual had such a chokehold on it. in
Oh
the
my
early
gosh.
2000s.
Yeah. Transition from work straight to the club.
I'm like, sock bun, blazer. I loved me a sock
Statement
bun.
necklace. Mm-hmm.
Peplum top.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pencil skirt.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Ugh.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Yes. All right. So we're going to play a little game. And I struggled a little bit trying to figure out a game that would be appropriate
I know. How do you play a game?
with
Who
this
can
movie.
start crying first thinking about this movie?
So I decided
Try on
let's do,
cue.
let's do some Betty White trivia.
Oh, I like
nice.
it.
So I have 5 questions. So first to 3 is going to be the winner, but I'll still go through all 5 questions because why the heck not? Okay. What year did Betty White make her television debut, making her one of the first women to star in front of and behind the camera? And I'll give you choices. Was it 1939, 1949, 1955, or 1960?
I'm going to go with 49.
So that's what I was going to say, Mom.
Well, you can both give the same answer if you want.
But then how will someone win? We need a winner.
there's
Fine.
no prize, guys.
1949.
No, if you're both wrong. Sorry.
Oh, come on.
It was 1939 with the sitcom
Oh.
Life with Elizabeth, and she was the first woman to produce and star in a sitcom.
Wow. Way to go,
Yes.
Betty White. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I know, Betty. Good job.
That is groundbreaking.
Yeah. Betty White was an animal lover and advocate. Which animal was she especially known for supporting? I won't give you choices on this one.
Dogs?
Yes, dogs.
I'm like, are
We
you looking
both
for a
say
specific breed of
dog.
dog?
Is it Bichon?
Great Danes.
Okay, this next one is really easy, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. Actually, it's a 2-parter. So Betty White was originally cast as what character in The Golden Girls?
Wait, she was
Rose.
originally cast
Oh,
as a different
originally?
character?
Yeah.
Was it Blanche?
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed.
Oh my gosh. I'm
That
so
would have
glad
been
they
a totally
changed
different.
it.
Yeah. And where was
Yeah.
she from? She would always talk about St. Olaf.
Oh, yeah,
Back in
Rose is
St.
from
Olaf.
St. Olaf.
Is that even a real place?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know.
It's like in Minnesota or Nebraska or
Uh-huh.
something.
But why
Yeah.
did she have such a southern accent?
No, Rose is from St. Olaf.
Oh, Rose.
Not
is. I thought you were
Rose.
talking about
Yeah.
Blanche.
Oh,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, so the producers originally had Betty White in mind for Blanche, and they had Rue McClanahan in mind for Rose, and they each actress fought respectively for the other part because they thought they would be a better fit for it.
Yes, and they were right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like on
absolutely.
Friends, because didn't Monica originally, or Courtney Cox originally read for Rachel?
Yeah, she did. And then
Oh,
they brought,
that would have been weird.
yeah, and then she
Mhm.
said, I think I could play Monica
I'm more
better.
Monica.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Betty White holds the Guinness World Record for the longest TV career for a female entertainer. How many years did her career span when she won this award?
I'm going to say 80.
Dang it. I was doing my math and I was going to say 80 years too. You counted faster than
Copy.
me.
You can't copy me. We're wrong. We're both wrong. I can tell by Jessica's face.
Okay.
81.
So her career did last over 80 years. When she won the award, it was 74 years, and she still holds the record.
I'm closer.
Wow.
So not the Price is Right.
My free car.
Okay,
I
last
want
question.
a Frigidaire.
I want a jet ski.
Can you imagine going on that show and coming home with like a barbecue? Are you kidding?
They gave away some crazy stuff, like a sailboat. What am I going to do
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Now I have to pay for the fees to like keep it at the marina.
Yeah.
Get it home. And
I don't know how to
taxes.
sail.
It's Kevin. Look at Dexter
Right.
looks like Kevin with his
I know
hair.
he does.
Yeah, he does.
Can I say hello? No, you just want to sit here. You okay?
You know what's interesting is I think it's all the actresses on the Golden Girls. They were in their 50s when they played those roles. And the styling made them look so much older.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the mom.
Estelle Getty. Yeah.
Yes. Because she was about the same age as the rest of them, wasn't she?
I think she was. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she was younger than B. Arthur, and that was supposed to be her daughter on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, they made her look old. They did a
Yeah,
good
they
job.
did. And she played it so well.
Okay, so last question. Betty White appeared as Professor June Bauer, a quirky anthropology professor, on which sitcom? A. Community, B. Parks and Rec, C. The Big Bang Theory, or D. 30 Rock?
Oh, I didn't watch any of
Community?
those shoes. I'm going to go with Parks
You
and
don't watch any of those shoes?
shoes shows.
I don't like those shoes either. The answer is
What kind of
Community.
shoes did you wear?
Yeah.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. You won the Jen Ayers range.
So I have to tell you, I used ChatGPT to help me come up with these questions. And the original final question was, what character did Betty White play on Friends when she debated about dinosaurs with Ross? And I was like, none?
What?
She was never on Friends. And then ChatGPT was like, oh, you're right. I made a mistake.
Oh my God.
That's why you never trust AI.
No.
So then I went back and researched all these questions to make sure the answers were
Make
correct.
sure it's true.
Yeah.
I read an article the other day that was terrifying. AI, something about some kind of AI was caught lying to the developers and tried to reprogram itself to avoid getting shut down. I was
Yeah.
like, this is some Terminator stuff, and I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
That is
Can we stop
scary.
with the AI, please? It's really scary. Bring back
Yeah,
real
that's
people.
terrifying.
please.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No thanks.
I
All
was
right.
telling Jordan about it, and then he turned on the Matrix.
Decided or iRobot.
Yeah. Terrifying.
All right, so now it's time to rate this movie, and I thought that we could use roses because
Yeah.
roses were an important theme throughout the film. So who would like to go first?
So, well, I think you can tell what we all thought about this movie just from what we've said throughout. But I absolutely love this film. It was different from any Hallmark movie that I've ever seen. Was somewhat predictable, and yet it wasn't. I didn't already figure out how it was going to play out in the end. I figured, she would have closure of some kind, but I had no idea how his military career would pan out. And so that was a surprise. I wasn't prepared for how much I was going to cry. I had seen this a couple years ago. And so, like you said, Jess, the second run through, it wasn't any different. I cried the whole time too. I loved all the touches, the costumes, the hair, the music, the way they styled the house, her little interactions with the men at the veterans' homes. I thought that was a really nice touch to show that she was still really connected with that community. All the acting was top notch. You could really feel the emotion especially from the last scene, but throughout. I would definitely recommend. I would definitely watch again, and 5 out of 5. Loved it. 5 roses for this.
Can I give it a whole bouquet of roses? This movie was so good. It was so good. I love a good historical fiction. I love a good romance. And this was just pull at your heartstrings in all the right ways. The acting was spot on. The casting was spot on. The costumes made me feel as though I had been born in the wrong time. It
I
was
know.
just so stinking good. And I had this like emotional investment in the movie. I felt connected to the characters, where when we're finding out what happened to Neil, and I'm like, he's alive. He was alive. Like, she's getting this telegram, and she was right when she was saying missing is not dead. He was still just missing. And it breaks my heart that they weren't able to like connect before he actually did pass away. And it was just so good. So yeah, an entire dozen roses for this movie.
Yeah, so good. I feel like it's one that you could, I mean, it would have to be the right crowd, right? But to watch with your girlfriends for Galentine's or something, it would be so fun.
As long as you had a hefty supply of tissues.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm planning a Galentine's brunch. It's going to be everybody bring. But I don't think that I should
I'm
show
going to
this
be
movie.
ready that soon to watch this.
No, definitely not.
Maybe I'll wait till after I have this baby to watch that one again.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I guess I should give my rating for this movie. Okay, I totally agree with you guys. Love this movie. Just a few tiny little things that I had comments on, but they did not take away from the overall theme of the film. The acting was great. I think it could not have been better cast. And I would really like to read the book. I'm interested to see if it's different from the movie and how different it might be. But I felt like the teleplay was wonderful, and there was nothing that felt like cheesy or cringy or anything like that. So I am also going to give it 5 roses.
Nice. And don't you feel like if you go back and read the book, you will absolutely visualize these characters in the roles? Yeah.
100%.
For sure. For sure. So, all right. So next week, we are going to do a roundup, and we're changing our roundups a little bit by bringing it down to one movie each. We're each choosing one movie, because 2 movies each was just too much for us to try to all watch. So if we do one movie, then we can pretty confidently say that we can watch all of them, and then we can chat about it. So next week we are doing winter sports themed movies. And I'm not admittedly always like a super fan of the sports movies. It's not usually the ones that I choose to watch. So that's why I picked this theme, because I figured, why not?
Why not choose something I don't like?
Lean into
try something new. It's good.
Yes. Okay, so be sure to follow us on Instagram at loveonthepod, and share your episode thoughts or ideas by emailing us at loveonthepod@gmail.com. Plus, you can text us with future movie recommendations using the link in our show notes. If you love this episode and want to hear more, please subscribe to the podcast as we drop new episodes weekly.
So whether you're searching for a long-lost love
or finding joy in a new one,
we hope your Valentine's Day is everything you want it to be. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, and happy birthday to me. Bye.